Thank you everyone for your patience, especially the ones who are online. Very special thanks to our first speaker, our keynote speaker, Honorable Justice BUKUNOLA ADEBIYI. That was a very insightful session. It's my pleasure to read the bio of our next speaker who will be speaking to us virtually today, Mr. Francis OSUYAH. Mr. Francis OSUYAH is a chartered accountant with over 25 years of corporate management experiences in manufacturing and services. He has led balanced scorecard implementations in major financial institutions, including Standard Bank South Africa, and played a key advisory role in MTN's Nigerian market entry. He facilitated the US $120 million AES deal with Lagos State government and specializes in market entry strategies and partnership, structuring for multinational firms expanding into Africa. An active member of the Global Boxburg Group, he contributed to trade facilitation initiatives under the Commonwealth. Francis co-founded the South Africa-Nigeria Chamber of Commerce, serving as its second president, and is an alumnus of the University of Luton and University of Witwatersrand. Please welcome Mr. Francis OSUYAH.
Thank you very much. It's afternoon here in Joburg. Good afternoon, everyone. It's going to be a tough act to follow Justice ADEBIYI. She has a lot more experience than myself, and she seems to have said almost everything that needs to be said on relationships and balance in life. Well, you can hear me. Wow. Okay, can you hear me now? Because I'm not muted, so let me see.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll have to start again. Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, maybe good morning, Lagos, but it's good afternoon here. It's afternoon here in Joburg because we are 1 hour ahead of Lagos. It's going to be a tough act to follow because Justice ADEBIYI seems to have said all that needs to be said. But what I've tried to do is I've adopted a different format. I've seen quite a lot of quotations on marriage and the impact it has or it may have on different people. But one thing I've always said to people is, just like there is no perfect relationship, there is no perfect marriage. It requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of commitment. So what I'll do is I'll read out the quote, and I'll talk a bit in terms of my experience. And my experience includes the experience I've had, the experience of my friends as well. And I remember I'm one of those people that did not get married early. I was close to 40 when I got married. And I think Olamide, LB, and a lot of the women in Phillips Consulting those days got tired of arranging dinners to see what needed to happen and ensure that at least eventually that happened. So, and it's been great. I've been married for about almost 23 years now. So I would say I do have some experience and good ones mostly. And have there been challenges? Yes, there have been challenges, but it all depends on how you manage the relationship. I remember one of my close friends said to me when I was getting married, he said, before you get married, what keeps the relationship going is 80% love, 20% finance. He says, immediately you get married, that equation flips. What keeps the relationship going becomes 20% love, 80% finance. Now, I don't know if that happens with most people, but I think it's a kind of experience a lot of people have had. So it's something you need to take into consideration which means getting married is something you need to prepare for. But in terms of relationships with other people, I think that's different. Relationships generally are based on trust, and trust has to be built over a long time. And in building trust, it means getting involved in different activities with people, and at every point in time, always standing on the side of truth. The reality is, whoever you're dealing with knows where you stand. When you are telling the truth, when you are lying, people would know. So for you to build trust in the long run, it's important that you stand on the side of truth and justice at every point in time. So let me now I'll now walk through some of the quotes that I like, and I find them quite interesting. And I'll talk around each of those quotes. The first one, which I found very interesting and which I used to quote a lot to my friends, is by Socrates. One of the things Socrates said, he said, by all means, a man should marry. If you get a good wife, you will become happy. If you get a bad one, you will become a philosopher. And when you become a philosopher, it's still beneficial to the society. Okay, now, a lot of questions come out of that. How do you know who would make you happy? It's not an easy one, but I remember in my early days, I remember in the early 90s when I did work with Square Nigeria Limited as an assistant manager accounts. We had one personnel manager, Mr. Mokbariola, and his advice to us then was, look, you guys, when you want to get married, don't look at the way the woman relates to you. Look at the way she's treating other people. It's either her relatives, her friends, people reporting to her, or the underprivileged. That will tell you a lot more about the person. And I think the same thing goes for women as well. Don't look at the way the man is treating you. Look at the way he's treating those around him, because that's the real person. Because the person in love has a different perspective, has a different attitude, and will deal with things differently. So it's important you are looking out for, okay, where is this person? Who is this person really? It's not the fact that he buys me gifts all the time. It's not the fact that he's always available for me. Is he available for his mother? Does he treat his mother well? If he doesn't treat his mother well, then it's not likely he will treat you well. So it's something you need to take a second look at. The other one I also found interesting is the guy says, my most brilliant achievement was my ability to persuade my wife to marry me. And now, who said this? This was Winston Churchill. He considered him being able to persuade his wife to marry him as his most brilliant achievement. Now, that tells you a lot about the importance of who you choose as your wife and how you are able to make that choice. And when you do make the choice, or when you do find that person, it's important you put in the effort and you do the right thing to persuade the person. A lot of people take it for granted. You know, I mean, I talk to a lot of my friends. I remember a lot of guys will tell you, oh, she's not wife material. And one day we had these discussions. We had discussions with a few of my friends, and we were talking about wife material. And I asked a lot of the guys, I said, how many of you guys, if we talk to women and we ask them, what is a husband material for you? How many of you guys will qualify? Because for most women, what is critical for them is faithfulness. And I remember saying to one guy who was making so much noise, you've not been faithful to your girlfriend. How are you sure you'll be faithful to your wife? Do you think you qualify as husband material? So those are things that people need to think about. Whilst the men are saying, oh, wife material, are they themselves good husband material? And I know when sometimes my wife tells me the challenge we have is that a lot of our mothers have not spent time to groom men who will be good husbands. They groom men to be successful doctors, successful engineers, successful chartered accountants, and all that. But we're not spending enough time grooming men that would become good husband material. And I think it's something women need to start looking at. The way you're grooming your daughters to be good wives, you must also begin to groom your sons as well. But most times, men get away with everything. But that needs to change. But it's something that's beginning to change. A few people are beginning to look at it and say, okay, look, we are not just grooming our daughters to be good wives. We need to groom, because if the men don't become good husbands, the good girls get the wrong end of the stick. And that's not good for the general society. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. Now, the other quote I'm looking at is, it says, to keep your marriage brimming with love in the loving cup. Whenever you are wrong, admit it. Whenever you are right, shut up. This is by Ogden Nash. Essentially what he's saying is that as much as possible, okay, it's not very easy to do that if you think you are right, okay? When you are wrong, it's always better to admit it very quickly and apologize, because it helps. It suits your partner when you come in and say, look, you know what? I messed up. This is what I did. It just wasn't right, Now, when I advise young people who are getting married, one of the things I say to them is, especially the women, I say, look, most men, okay, I'm sure the men will forgive me for this. I say, most men are very useless. You just have to manage our inadequacies. A lot of us have inadequacies. And sometimes I find myself saying to my wife, hey, I've always told you, just manage my inadequacies. We are not perfect, and most men are not. Okay, I'm not saying all women are perfect, but I try and explain to the women, don't expect too much from a man. The best you get from a man, you get the best before marriage. That's what I find most times. But a few men do get better, but most times the best behavior you get is before marriage. So just assume that it's not going to be better than what you see now. It may get worse, okay? But I think it's something you need to take into consideration. Don't expect everything. Just know that this man you are marrying, you've got to manage his inadequacies. Of course, there are limits to the level of inadequacies that anyone should accept. So it's something I always encourage people to look at and make sure that they don't have too high an expectation in relationships, because when you have too high an expectation, that in itself could be a challenge. Just know that who you are getting, in fact, in any relationship, even in business relationships, if you have too high an expectation, you may face a lot more challenges than you expect. Now, the other quote is by Friedrich Nietzsche. He says that it is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages. Always marry your friend. It's not just about love. Is this someone you can talk to? Is this someone you can relate to? If you can't relate to the person, if you can't talk, I know people who would say, look, my husband doesn't talk to me. And I'm like, how? And sometimes, when I travel, my wife and I were on the phone for 2 hours, and our friends are like, what are you discussing for so long? Because we are friends, So friendship is key. And I think it's something people need to look at, because if he's your friend, it means you can say anything to him and he will understand why you are saying those things. But if he's not your friend, so what I always advise is he your friend? Build that friendship first. If you become friends such that you can be yourself. If you can't be yourself with your partner, then it's a major problem. It is a major challenge. So building relationship, building friendship, it's important, because without friendship, you would have major challenges. The other one I find interesting, I can't remember who said this. He said, keep your eyes wide open before marriage, half shut afterwards. Okay, which means the way I interpret that is, you need to be, before marriage, what you cannot tolerate, what you will not accept, is important you make those things clear. After marriage, you have to be a bit more tolerant. You have to persevere. It's a different type of relationship, okay? Because it requires a lot of patience. Different things come into play, okay? First of all, you have to deal with living together. You've been alone for so many years, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, and then all of a sudden, you now have someone living with you. You can manage that. The next thing, when the kids start coming, it's a different ball game entirely. Okay, kid 1, kid 2, okay, and those who have more, 3, 4. Now, you now have to manage a much more complex relationship. You have to manage the kids, okay? You have to manage the relationship between the kids and your wife and yourself, you know. And of course, the extended family now comes in. Your parents, your siblings, all of these people now become parts of the relationship. So it's a very, very complex relationship. And sometimes it's not the couple that brings problems into the marriage. It could be external parties. So managing those external parties and agreeing how you want to manage those external parties is also very important in a relationship. So those are some things that needs to be dealt with. The other quote I like is by John Floria. He says, a good husband makes a good wife. Now, this is very interesting. I have a friend who used to complain a lot about his wife. So there was a time we were all together, and I just made a simple statement that a guy that complains a lot about his wife is a problem, because he himself is probably the person creating the problem. And after we spoke about it, he said to himself, okay, maybe there are some things I should be doing differently. I said, exactly. That a lot depends on you. You know, the things you are complaining about, have you discussed it with your wife? Is it something you've discussed? Have you tried to find solutions to those challenges? She's probably unaware. She's probably doing all of those things just to make you happy. Now, instead of you dealing with it, you're going out complaining to everybody that is available to listen to you. And of course, everybody will tell you, oh, no, don't accept that nonsense. How can she do that? You know? And I remember a similar story where a guy felt, oh, I have to take a decision on A, B, C, D. And the wife felt differently. And a lot of guys were like, oh, sorry, I'm speaking. Until a few of us said, but wait a minute. If your wife has taken that decision, is it the right decision or the wrong one? And everybody kept quiet. And he was like, well, it was the right decision. Oh, so why is that an issue for you? She's taking that burden off you. You go out into the world, change the world, make the world a better place. Go out and build your business, get things done. If your wife is taking the right decisions, then let her go ahead with it. So it's not about, for him, it was an ego trip. He felt as the man, he was the one that could take that decision. But if someone else can take that decision, if someone else can take that burden off you, you should be praising her, not fighting over, oh, why did she have to take that decision? So a good man makes a good wife. A lot depends on you as the man. It's not always the woman that is the problem. you've got to take that decision and understand how that works. Another interesting quote I have here is by Emma Bombeck. It says, marriage has no guarantees. If that's what you are looking for, go live with a car battery. Okay? Because when you buy a car battery, you are told, oh, 5 years, nothing will go wrong. Marriage doesn't have such guarantees that everything will go as you expect them to go. Things change. How do you react to those things? How do you manage the things that come up over time? So there are no guarantees in marriage. Things can go wrong. But when things go wrong, the question is, how do you manage them? And it's the way you manage the things that go wrong that defines your marriage and how it continues to grow. Okay, another one I find interesting is a happy marriage is the vision of two good forgivers. So it just tells you, I mean, this is flowing from where there are no guarantees. You must all have that spirit of forgiveness. You must be able to forgive one another. Okay, yes, some people will say there's a red line. There are some things I will not accept. I understand that. But it's about each party being able to forgive one another. I think I'll stop at this point, and if there are any questions, I'll take those questions. I do have a few other interesting quotes, but I'd like to stop here and take the questions. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Francis. I don't know if you can see me. Yes, I'm having to change the agenda a little. You know, I was going to interview you with the panel, but I just thought, okay, I have a few minutes. Let me interview you now. Thank you so much. We've been clapping here for you because we said he's speaking to the guys. I hope the guys can hear him. Okay. You may think you are original by saying that the men are not, you know, I can't remember what you said, but the fact that, the men need to be helped. You are not original because that's actually what God said. God created man, looked at man and said, this man cannot survive without a helper. And then he brought the woman across. And you know, if you read the scripture, not only did God say that it's not good for man to be alone, right? He also says, you know, they allowed, if you read the scripture, he said Adam should name the animals, okay? And the reason Adam was to name the animals, one of it was to see if any of the animals could be the help for the man. So, you know, some people have dogs as their best friends. Some people have cats. You know, after Adam had named everything, the Bible says, but there was none able to be the helpmeet before God created the woman. So I just wanted to bust your bubble that you are not original with that statement. Even God who created heaven and earth, who created heaven and earth. Yes. So I just want to ask you a few questions, Francis. So, I mean, I'm going to get personal because we have some young men who are 40 and they're not married. Help us. What are they waiting for? What are they looking for? Why were you? Because we remember that time, ABIOLA, we remember that time. Say, this grandpa, when is he going to marry? So tell us, why does it take some men so long to marry?
I think it just depends on, you know, for some people, it's about commitment. You are saying to yourself, do I want this commitment now? Okay. Then you've seen some of your friends who got married, and in a year or two, the marriage was over, and you are like, oh, I'm not ready for all this stress, you know? So you just get on with your life until there will be that one person you will find that ticks all the boxes. Not that you have boxes to tick, but you just find someone that connects with you And once you meet that person, everything changes. That's what has happened with a lot of my friends who didn't marry early. You know, it's meeting that one person that makes all the difference. And it's
And you can't help
I tell people
yourself thereafter.
Exactly. That's what happens.
Okay. Okay, so you have dwelt a lot on marriage, but we believe in RIBS that marriage is just one of those things that you do in life. Okay?
Sure.
It's a major part of life, but it's not the only thing. In talking about equilibrium and balance, how can I balance my life? Incorporating all the things that I do. Now, some of us do a lot more than some others. But you know, you have business, you have ministry, you have I won't even lump family together. You have spouse, you have children. Some people still have parents. You have your friends, you have your business associates. How do we live a life of balance and equilibrium so that we're not tilting too much in one direction?
Okay. I think it's about planning. There are things you do. For example, I'm a Catholic boy. Priority is every morning I go for mass. So you know that comes first before going to work. Okay. So we all have, so you put it that, okay, this comes first, then work. Like this morning, my little boy, our last child, had to go for football. So
not little, Sha. He's not little anymore.
He's 11 now, so he's still a baby compared to his older brothers. Okay, so first thing, got up. Initially, I thought, okay, maybe my wife should do it. I said, no, you know what? Let me just get it done. So took him for football. From football, I went for mass. From mass, came back home, got ready, went back to pick him up at 10 o'clock South African time. Then I knew this was going to start. I sent you a message. I'll come in at 10:45 because I had things I had to do. So I think it's all about planning. You work out your schedule. What are the things I want to achieve today? What are the things I want to achieve this week? And what are the things I want to achieve over the next few months? So once you are clear as to the things you want to do, you define what your priorities are, and then you just get on with it. It may look difficult, but over time, you find it becomes a part of you. You know, you just know, look, as long as I plan my day, everything goes well. If a day that is not planned, most times is a wasted day. And I've had times where maybe I've been too tired and I've just said, you know what, I want to flow. So there are some weeks that I know not much gets done, but I just say to myself, you know what, let it be. But most times, once you have your days planned, you'll be fine.
Okay, my Lord Buki Adebiyi also said that about planning. So what would you say to somebody who says, I really, you know, don't let me say, what would you say to somebody? When do you start to learn to plan? At what age is it, you know, at what age should you learn to plan? Because what we're hearing is that without planning, you can forget it, okay? You're going to have a wasted time, and time is life. So, at what age should I start to plan? Should I start to learn to plan?
As early as possible. I mean, you need to, I wouldn't say from age 5 or age 10 or, I mean, for example, my 11-year-old, my wife tells him, when you wake up, make sure, even if you are not going to school, you brush your teeth, you have your shower. And he's like, but mommy, I'm not going anywhere. No, you brush your teeth, you have your shower, or else no TV for you. So he knows, okay, that I have to do. So he's getting used to that. Okay. So I think the earlier it's done, the better, you know, because parents play a major role in getting kids to know what they need to do and how they need to do them. So teach them how to plan from the beginning. You know, when they come back from school, You say to them, the next 2 hours you have to read your books. Okay, what subjects did you learn? What happened in school today? Have you done your homework? You know, over time, the kids get used to it. And then keeping to time is also very critical. I mean, in those days in Phillips Consulting, there was no way you will be late for a client meeting. It's like an abomination. It can't happen, you know. So once you get used to that, you just know that's the way things are. And once people know that if you tell this person it's 11 a.m., he will be there at 11 a.m., people will respect it. But I remember the last few years, I have some projects in Nigeria, and the client tells you 10 a.m., you are there 9:30, and the client strolls in at 10:30. By the time he does it twice, he finds that this person is always on time. It becomes very embarrassing for him to do it a third time. Yeah. So I think a few of us, once we start doing things properly, the people we work with, the people that work with us, would also begin to move in that direction. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think over time we'll achieve that.
Okay. So my final question, except if anybody in the audience has a question, my final question is, what is the end of somebody who doesn't live a life of balance and equilibrium? What do you think is the end of somebody who does not live? You know, because it's almost like sometimes people think it is utopia that you're living a life of balance and equilibrium. But what do you think is the end of somebody who doesn't live a life of balance and equilibrium?
Look, it's going to be difficult to say what the end would be. I think God knows the end of everyone, so I wouldn't want to play in that area. All I know is if you live a life of balance and equilibrium, you live a better life, and the stress level will be much lower. If you don't, then you live a very stressful life.
Stressed. Yes.
Yeah, very stressful life, and you don't need that.
Yes, what was coming to me also, and I know that we're going to hear it a lot, that a life of balance and equilibrium equals a life of peace of mind. So it doesn't mean you won't achieve things at the end of the day. It's just that you would have, when they say wuru to the answer, you'll just be so exhausted and everything before you get to the end. Well, thank you so much, Francis. Everybody I know, there's a question. Fantastic. Everybody I know, in this, who's speaking, I'm just going to tell them very quickly how I know them, So, Milord Buki I've known since St. Mary's Private School. Francis I've known since my days in Phillips Consulting. Himself, Tunde Samuel, FOLAKE ADENIYI-ADELEYE, and ABIOLA OJO-OSAGIE. We all work together in Phillips Consulting. When I was asking Milord Buki about relationships, you build your relationships intentionally. So not only did we work together, when my boys went to school in South Africa, Francis was their guardian, and he took it very serious. So thank you so much, Francis, for
my wife did all the work. It's important I say that. Lai did all the work, so
good. I'm happy to hear that, and that's what it's all about, working together. Our prayer meeting this morning, we had a prayer meeting this morning, and we concentrated on talking about how families should be a team, because if you're a team, then you can bring down the world, even if you don't want to. Thank you so much, Francis. Shalom, shalom.
Thank you.
I hope that you'll still stay and be a part of the rest of the conference. Oh, sorry, no, don't go yet. There's a question. What's your question?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
He can. Can we hear him?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. My name is Buki, and thank you for a brilliant presentation. It was wonderful to hear a male perspective, which is very rare. And during your presentation, you mentioned that mothers should raise boys who become husband material. And while I agree that women are the primary nurturers, sons desperately need their fathers to become strong, capable men. I'd like your position on that. Because
I agree with that.
If you say that mothers should raise strong men, it is fathers getting away, which is what always happens. Boys get away from chores, fathers get away from chores. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a comment.
Exactly. You've actually answered your question by saying, I mean, mothers should not let their young boys get away from those chores. They should make sure those things are done. So if they are brought up to see that they need to do some of those things, and then if they are brought up to see that they need to care more, okay, they need to invest in their relationships, then that makes a lot of difference. So we may not be good examples because we were probably not brought up that way. So we may not be the best example to show in terms of investing in relationships. So if mothers begin to teach the boys, okay, they'll be better than we are. So that's the point I'm trying to make. We need to have men that are better than us, that don't have the inadequacies that we have. You know, so if we do that, then we're better. But will men provide some support? Yes, they should. The men should set a standard. The men should provide guidance. But most times you find that the focus of the men is more in terms of academics. They want to see that they do well in school. But in terms of managing relationships, men don't pay attention. Maybe, like you said, that should happen as well. It should be teamwork.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much, Francis. We have a plaque for you. So I'm going to keep it until either when I come to South Africa or when you come to Lagos. Thank you so much and God bless. And all our love to Lai. Thank you very much.